2 Samuel and chapter 17 is where we left off, halfway through the chapter. And I stopped there because chapter 17 is about 16 and 17 that we looked at last week. You've got Absalom trying to throw a coup and take over David. You've got David fleeing for his life. Then you've got, the political warfare that's going on then. You go over and say you're going to be on their side, but get word back to me, and like all this stuff you would expect in a time like that. And where you don't know really who to trust when you're them. We talked about the advice of Ahithophel that sounds like it's from God. Well, they at least treated it like they'd inquired of the Lord because everything he said seemed to work out. And until this situation where the Hushai, the Archite, is asked, Ahithophel said this, and it would have worked. It would have helped Absalom take over David. Let me restate that. If God never intervened, then his advice would have worked. But I think even if Absalom would have tried his advice instead of Hushai's, God would have found some way to not let it work. So I don't want to misspeak, but my idea, what I'm trying to say is, from a worldly perspective, it was the right advice. And God had to intervene and stop that. So that's all what we talked about last week. Some principles that we learned out, just to get you back in the story a little bit. Ziba came to David and said he was the steward over Mephibosheth. Y'all remember who Mephibosheth is? Jonathan's crippled son that David promised to take care of. And so David's like, well, where's Mephibosheth? Let's take care of him while I'm on the run. And Ziba said, oh, he's siding with Absalom, but I'm coming to you. And so there's some of this distrust. You're not sure what's going on. And here's the principle. Be sure to investigate both sides of a story. And man, is that so true. I don't want to get sidetracked. Let's keep going. Here's another one. Because Ahithophel had given Absalom advice that worked, but here's the principle. Never, ever, ever trust advice from anybody, I don't care who it comes from, if the advice dishonors God. I don't care who it comes from. If it dishonors God, dishonors the principle, but seems to get you where you think you want to be, either your target is wrong, or God has a different way of getting you to that target. But never, ever, ever follow any advice that doesn't fully give glory to God. And that was one of the things that we kind of talked about. And the best worldly advice cannot stand up against the decrees of God. God is our protector. So as we start today, picking up the story there in verse 24 of chapter 17, here's where we're going. Here's the principle that you're going to learn today. When we are weary in the wilderness, God is faithful to bring along the right people to encourage us. If you let Him. If you let Him. Do we ever get weary and feel like we're in the wilderness? Oh yeah. Especially in this day and age. Well, I say especially, but I'll tell you what, if you went back 100 years, they would say especially in this day and age. And if you go back 250 years, they would say especially in this day and age. There's not been an age where man did not depend on God. And so, and the same is here. But when you are weary and in the wilderness, God is faithful to bring along the right people to encourage us. And when I think of some of the prophets that Elijah, that God fed in the wilderness. And he always shows up with help. Maybe not the help you would have wanted to start with, but that you're grateful for when it comes. He has a way of lowering our expectations down to reality so we're not so selfish. And then saying, now, do I got your attention? Let's build from here. He has a way of doing that. And I think you're going to see that a little bit here as we read. Hello, come on in. As we close in prayer. Oh no.
She didn't even hear you.
They didn't even get it. Wasted a good joke.
Wait, what'd you do?
Nothing. Not a thing. No. Oh,
Come on up here.
there's 2 seats up here in the front. That way you can hear me.
You like the back seat.
Huh? Huh?
I probably can't hear you, but I'm sitting right there.
Oh, I hope you can hear me. All right. We are in 2 Samuel chapter 17. And we're just about to start reading to verse 24. So 2 Samuel 17:24. Let me read to the end of the chapter. David went to Mahanaim, and Absalom crossed the Jordan with all the men of Israel. Big army. Remember, what was the advice? Was he going to take a small group and sneak up on David, or what's he going to do?
Now he's going to take all of Israel with him and him in front.
He's taking the whole big army, and he's going to be out front leading and prancing and look at me, I'm boss. So he's leading a big army. This is like, go ahead, Dave, take us out. We got you this time. That's
Big hair.
the what?
With big hair.
Yeah. And he, with his proud big hair, just about the height of some of the lower branches, right? We'll get to that here in a minute. And, all that hair he's so proud of, puts it right up there, look at me, and then shaves it off once a year for 5.5 pounds of hair. Whew.
Can you imagine the headaches from all that weight of hair?
Stressful.
Yeah.
I have no clue.
Yeah, I can't imagine. No, I can't imagine. I just wonder, like, if he washed it, if it would still be 5.5 pounds. I'm just that was, yeah. That is nasty, isn't it? All right, let's keep going before I get kicked off of YouTube. All right, verse 25. Absalom had appointed Amasa over the army in place of Joab. So Joab had been the commander over the whole army of Israel. And then he leaves, think about that. He leaves his position of commanding the whole army to go with David.
No!
And that's going to make it really, really difficult for him. Amasa was the son of Jether, an Ishmaelite who had married Abigail, the daughter of Nahash, and sister of Zeruiah, the mother of Joab. So we've got some family feuding going on here. The Israelites and Absalom camped in the land of Gilead. When David came to Mahanaim, thank you. Shobi, son of Nahash, from Rabbah of the Ammonites, and Machir, son of Amiel, from Lodebar, and Godzilla. Barzillai, yeah, him, the Gileadite from, I hate reading these verses, Rogelim. Here's the point. Let's get these people, what'd they do? Verse 28. They brought bedding and bowls and articles of pottery. They also brought wheat and barley, flour, roasted grains, beans and lentils, honey and curds and sheep, and cheese from cow's milk for David and his people to eat. For they said, the people have become exhausted and hungry and thirsty in the wilderness. All right, some things that we see out of here. First of all, Joab gave up his position as commander of the Israelite army to lead a band of a few thousand to protect David. Now, when I started searching this, I thought, but wait a minute, I thought the Bible said that David left with 600 men. I don't know if you remember that from last week. So how do I know that Joab's coming to lead a couple thousand men? Any idea how we would guess that?
Only if you read ahead.
Well, yes. Did I not read that part yet?
Well, the part-
Oh, it's coming in chapter 18. All right, we'll get to it in a minute.
You're trying to trick us.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I totally did that on purpose.
I have a question.
I meant to do
for
that.
you.
What's your,
Do you
uh-oh.
think there's any significance to him being in Mahanaim? Means two camps. It's where Laban and Jacob met and they built the tower and said, you can't cross over on this side and I won't cross over on that side. Just-
Yes, I do.
There's two camps here now, Absalom and David.
Yes, I do think there's something to that. Don't know what. No, you're right. And that's the thing. I spent about a half an hour going through all these names and trying to, of these people I can't pronounce. And trying to there were some interesting things, but nothing that I could find that really pulled out like, ooh, we need to know that to know the story. However, I did not find that. I didn't look at the name of the city. But I think if you had the Jewish mindset, and even for us, because we've been going through this book by book, and a lot of these names and places come up repeatedly. And I would tell you that part of the reason I think that's significant is I think there's a whole lot more going on there in the, how do I explain this? I think land and location is more important to God than we realize. And that's why I believe when he said that the Israelites would get their land back, it was not just figurative stuff, that they would get Jerusalem back on the land that used to be the temple. And I believe that's all coming. The significance of why it's so important, I don't think we can fully understand yet. From my studies over the last 6 years, I do believe it has something to do with what God is proving in the heavenly realms, not just down here. And the angels and beings that he has put in charge over areas, just like Daniel 10 when Michael the archangel came to deliver a message to Daniel, the prince of Persia, which was a demon prince over a specific area that was stopping it from happening for 21 days. Like there's stuff going on behind the scenes we don't see. And I think that's by design. If God wanted us to fully understand all that, he would have told us. I think we might be so scared of what's going on, we wouldn't be any earthly good. So he's told us just enough to rest in faith in him. But when I think we will study the Bible for all of eternity and continue to learn in it, I think it's that deep. And I think things like that, when we start seeing the names and what it meant and have better minds to piece the whole scripture together throughout eternity, I think we're going to find some fascinating things like that. So
When I looked at this, and then, he talks about Amasa takes over for Joab, but Amasa is related to Joab.
That's what
Yes.
I'm trying to figure out. What is, I've read
Go ahead.
the verse like 4 times.
mhm.
What is exactly the relationship? Because I was trying to figure that out.
Yeah, boom, 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 boom.
I'm like,
Yeah.
I need a chart. I need to write this
I think
down.
they're cousins.
Yeah, that's what it is. I looked at it too, and
But to me, it's this concept of Mahanaim is the two camps, and they're at war.
yes,
No!
yes,
It's when, Jacob and Laban, make peace, but when they meet at the two camps,
yes. But in this case, they're not going to be making peace.
no.
Yeah. So
So that's just the only significance I saw in the name.
okay, that's good. This is what we're looking at here. Joab gives up his position as commander over the Israelite army, to lead a few thousand men with David. And how does this happen? God brought protection for David. God is bringing safety and security. And so I want you to keep that in mind. David was fleeing. In fact, it's almost like David has a death wish. At the end of the story today, Joab's going to say, we defeated the enemy for you, and you're treating your men like we lost, and you'd have been better off if we'd all died instead. And so David is really struggling here, and he doesn't do what he should do, and yet God brings him the security and the support that he's going to need. When you are weak and you don't even know what to do next, sometimes when we're at our lowest is when God can work behind the scenes and you know it was never you doing it. And so God puts it in the hearts of people to bring these things. David is fleeing. Absalom looks like he's winning. But Joab realizes the safe bet is with, Joab realizes the safe bet is with David because that's where God is. But everybody else would say the safe bet is with Absalom. I mean, that's why the whole army goes with Absalom. So my point in bringing that up as we're reading through this is the masses aren't always right. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes the masses, well, I would go so far as to say almost always the masses are wrong. These men are identifying with the rejected king. These men that are following David, they're identifying with the rejected king against the perception of the masses. All these masses saying, but Absalom's stronger, Absalom cares, Absalom is definitive, he calls out commands and gets it done. And David, what's David do? What's David being known for right now? His reputation is what?
Being weak and not taking leadership.
What are some things he's done to fail his leadership? This is not hard to find.
Bathsheba.
All right, with Bathsheba, let's start with that. Because then he did tell Joab, hey, put Uriah out front. Joab didn't know why. It never tells us that David told Joab, this guy needs to die because this is what he's done. Joab could have thought, hey, this guy's mixed up in a plot to try to kill David, so we're going to do David a favor and kill him. And then, so Joab murders Uriah for David, comes home to find out, wait, I was doing that to cover up your affair? You think you made Joab happy? No, in fact, I got one on you owe me, and you owe me big. And that's going to show all the way through this. Because now, Joab's not so sure he needs to listen to David. I know what to do more than David does. That's going to be his attitude, and you'll see it. What's another time? David and Tamar. When one of his sons rapes the half sister, another child of David, what's David do? Nothing.
Angry, but that was it.
Yeah, he does nothing. So then who steps in to do something? Absalom. Absalom steps in, I'll do it because Dad won't. And so then he does it, and what's David do to Absalom? Nothing. He's mad, just like he was before, but Absalom takes off. Joab comes and says, Absalom's been gone a long time, why don't you bring him back? And he's like, all right, fine, you do it, but I don't want to see him. Don't bring him to the palace. So Absalom comes back, and for a long time, doesn't see his dad. Finally, burns down Joab's fields to get his attention to try to make a meeting with David, because David's not making the call. So this whole time, how's Absalom feel about David? He won't decide to do nothing. Does he do anything?
No respect.
No respect. So then he sits out in front of the gate and tells everybody who comes by, Dad doesn't make any decisions. No! Come talk to me and I'll help you with these decisions. And he wins the heart over. So I'm going through this history because it's important to understand that as we're moving forward in this story. All right, now we hit verse 1 of chapter 18. David mustered the men who were with him, and appointed over them commanders of thousands and commanders of hundreds. Well, now do you see why I think there were a few thousand men with David? He has at least 3 divisions, and we're going to see that in a minute. He divides all of them into 3 divisions, and under them would be commanders of thousands, which if there was only 1,000, if there were 3,000 men, you'd have a man in charge of a man who's in charge of 1,000. I feel like there's at least a couple thousand under each of those 3 divisions. And so, a rough guess, I would say somewhere around 6,000 upwards. Now, I will also say this. Commander of thousands does not mean you know, if you have 900 in the group, they would still call it, by position, the commander of thousand. You see what I'm saying? Now, so it could be under 6,000 and divided into that way, but not full groups. Like, yeah, it can happen. But we're talking 6,000 to 10,000 people would be a rough guess. I looked and can't find for sure, but where'd those people come from? Who sent them there? God. And why would they go against the masses, against the beloved new king that's being put up in position, and with David, who's not being decisive? Why would they do that?
Because God's not rejecting David.
That's right. It's people that are listening to God. So even when you're in the wilderness and you're not having the strength to pull yourself together, God can send you all the resources that you need if you'll let Him.
It's very interesting that Ittai the Gittite, he's a Philistine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was some of what I found is the people He's got leading are from outside Israel, but part of David's past, and there's some interesting things going on there. All right, verse 2. David sent out his troops, a third under the command of Joab, a third under Joab's brother Abishai, son of Zeruiah. Zeruiah. Yeah, it's split between 2 lines. I couldn't see it. Zeruiah, thank you. And a third under Ittai the Gittite. And the king told the troops, I myself will surely march out with you. But the men said, you must not go out. If we are forced to flee, they won't care about us. Even if half of us die, they won't care. But you are worth 10,000 of us, which makes me feel like there's probably more than 10,000 there. You know, could be up to 20,000 with them if they didn't care about 10,000 and they wouldn't care if half of us were there. So I don't know how many. It would be better now for you to give us support from the city. And the king answered, I will do whatever seems best to you. So the king stood beside the gate while all of his men marched out in units of hundreds and of thousands. The king commanded Joab, Abishai, Ittai, those 3 guys, be gentle with the young man Absalom for my sake. And all the troops, this is important, heard the king giving orders concerning Absalom to each of the commanders. Now let's just stop for a minute. Does David seem to be in control here?
Not really.
Of the whole
I
army,
think
yeah.
he thinks he is.
Of the whole army, yeah.
Yeah, he's leading. Who divided them into hundreds, thousands, and 3? David did. Does David understand battle? Do they know he understands battle? Yeah, so he's making these calls, he's making the divisions. It's like all of a sudden this guy that can't make a decision is making decisions. But then I know the elephant in the room is, he said, all right, let's go and I'm going with you. And they said,
No, don't.
nope, you're more important. You need to stay here.
I'll do what you think is best.
And I'll do what you think is best.
Now, the old David would have been right
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think there's part of it where, this whole thing came up for Bathsheba when he wasn't with them. And so he's thinking, I'm not going to make that mistake again. But strategically, they were right. They said, if we go on the run, we can't protect you, And so there seems to be a standing up to take the lead, but yet not fully taking the lead. And I believe that this whole last few chapters and the chapters coming is about David's leadership. I think that's what we're trying to track. And I don't just mean leadership with Israel. I think leadership as the commander-in-chief over the troops, David's leadership as king over the nation, and David's leadership as father over his house. And he does well in some areas and not in others. And so that's kind of where I'm going with this.
So what kind of support is David going to give them from the city? He said, you stay in the city and give us support.
They don't want to worry about it anymore.
I think part of it is they didn't want to worry. Part of it is they do have runners going back and forth. And it's not like he'll be unaware of what's happening and not making calls. Whenever they fought and divided into groups, you've got some sneaking over here and some coming in the back door over here. You still have messages running back and forth, and the king, whoever's in charge, says, oh, this just happened, now I need them to do this and them to do that. And so I think they're saying, we need your support from there. I don't think David's going to be uninvolved. In fact, I get the idea that they're saying, when it comes to war, we need you to lead. And I think David knows to lead. And we will see in a moment, when Absalom dies, we'll have two different runners running to get the message to David. And he'll be looking for those runners to come from that direction to give him the message. So that's going to happen. What do you think of the fact that David tells them, you're going out to fight this army, and normally the way to win is you kill the head, and that stops the army. And he says, all right, go out and try to beat them. When you beat them, which is the Israelites, their people. This is a civil war. No matter how many of them you're going to have to kill,
Don't hurt.
keep Absalom alive.
Well, I think that's also why David also was okay with not going to battle.
Yeah.
He didn't want to be responsible for his son's downfall.
And that is exactly right. I would go one step further and say that's why David wanted to go into battle, was to protect Absalom. Because when they said don't go, he's like, okay, I'll stay back here. But if you're going in without me, I'm telling y'all. And how did David tell him? Like, oh, by the way,
In front of the entire army.
in front of the troops so everybody hears, you protect Absalom. Why do you think David feels that way? I mean, I know the simple answer is, well, he's his son. Has David treated him like a son at all yet? Think,
Guilt.
aha. It's guilt. Is he doing it because he really loves and cares for his son Absalom?
No, he sees Absalom as the byproduct of David's actions.
Absalom is a reminder to David of his own failure. And it's not that he wants Absalom out of the way because of that, but it's like, whatever happens to Absalom, that's my fault. And so what he does is he tries to cover up what Absalom is doing by just trying to take it on himself. When you think of parents, let me try to put that in a down-to-earth, we see it all the time example. Somebody that grows up sowing their wild oats. You ever know anybody like that? And never saw anybody that way at school, right? Yeah, never. Going through high school and into those early years, man, they could live wild. and then they grow up a little bit and they realize, man, those were mistakes. And they even repent. They say, God, I should never have been that way. They go to recovery, they get over things, whatever. Now they're doing better. And they have kids. And their kids start to do what they used to do when they were younger. Y'all following me? What should the parent do?
I've been down that road. You don't want to go there.
And I'm not going to let you go down there. Instead, what do? Well, how can I get on them for doing the stuff I did? Are you hearing me? David never took control of his family because he himself had failure. That is a mistake. That is the devil saying, just because you had failure, you're not worthy of ever leading better than that. That is his way of keeping it generational. And at some point, we need to say, no. We need to stop this cycle right now. It's okay. Look, we love you. We understand it's not your fault. We love you. Okay?
That was just perfect.
The timing.
The timing, we got, we got to say no. No! Like, that's, like, I felt it too. I was like, so please don't feel bad, honey. Seriously. Okay? So now let's just keep going with the story. Where did I leave off now? Because we're going to run out of time.
6.
All right. David's army marched out of the city to fight Israel, and the battle took place in the forest of Ephraim. There, Israel's troops were routed by David's men. So David's got what, 20, 30,000 men? We don't know, but it's not a big number because all Israel, not half of Israel, all Israel went out against David, who they knew they had so many people that whatever David has with them, it's not going to work, right? That's the numbers fit. Watch what David's men, they routed Israel. The men of Israel, the big army, is fleeing. David's men are pursuing. And Absalom is on his, not a horse, on his little mule, trying to run away. Just hilarious. And it says, and the casualties that day were great. 20,000 men from Israel died. Like, how big of an, if that were in history today and a civil war broke out in America, we got millions and millions of people, and 20,000 people died. They didn't have as many people as we have in America today. And it would be huge for us. You understand? This is a major, we see this so often in Scripture, we forget how big it is. They thought we'd go out and we're going to crush David's men, and David's men killed 20,000 of them, and they are on the run. Who did that? God's doing it. The battle spread out over the whole countryside, and the forest swallowed up more men that day than the sword. As they ran, horses and mules through the woods, they're getting their heads knocked off. And they're going through battle, and am I reading this right, that 20,000 or more would have been killed by the forest? Because more than the sword? Now maybe the 20,000 is the sword and the people in the woods. I don't know. But this is a crazy battle. Is this a normal battle? This is how it normally happens?
I was going to say, you would not ever plan to attack an army in a forest.
No. The forest is a place to hide. The thing they would normally put their safety and security in is the thing that God is using to take them out.
You know, Amanda just was asking us for help remembering what movie that was like. Narnia. Like at the end of the first movie, Narnia, Aslan awakens the trees, and the trees come out and like whoosh, roots through
Yeah.
out, like the roots are like
The roots are coming out
And
and
they strip over the roots. And
I imagine that.
yeah.
That's what came to Buster.
Or the Dread Fire Swamp in The Princess Bride, there's,
Yeah.
you know.
It just made me think of like the trees and like the roots suddenly, like that root coming up.
Tripping the horse, and he goes flying headfirst into the next tree, and he's gone. Like, yeah, like I can't imagine what it was like for the angels to watch this battle.
Yeah.
I hope there's instant replay when we get to heaven to go back and see some of these, events from the past. But obviously God is doing something miraculous. Verse 9. Now Absalom happened to meet David's men. Well, that's happened to meet?
Coincidence?
Coincidence? Yeah, I don't think so. He was riding his mule, and as the mule went under the thick branches of a large oak, Absalom's hair got caught in the tree. Now, I have heard that some versions of the Bible say head there instead of hair. And a quick look into the original language, it could be translated either way. Now, here's my thinking. If he got caught by the head in between branches where he couldn't get out, and he hung there tight enough where he's jammed in, he can't get his head out, he probably wouldn't have lived very long. Be choked. Because it's going to cut off the blood flow and the oxygen. But you grab him by his hair, do you know how long he can hang there alive? Yeah, and it probably didn't feel very good, and he probably tried to climb up and get it out, and and it's like his sword fell, and if he could get it, and maybe he's too proud to cut it. No, it's not that annual hair cutting yet. I don't know what was going through his mind other than sharp pain, but he's hanging there, and it seems for a little bit of while. Verse 10. When one of the men saw what had happened, he told Joab, I just saw Absalom hanging in the oak tree. What?
Why didn't he stop? He's like, I gotta go.
Yeah, you did what? You saw him? Yeah, he's back there. What would you do? Well, I came and told you.
Oh, you gotta see this.
Well, David said, deal gently with him.
Right.
He didn't want to strike him.
Yep. So, that's exactly right. He's thinking, well, the king, David, said, if I see the king wannabe Absalom, then let him go. So, verse 11, Joab said to the man who had told him this, wait, you saw him? Why didn't you strike him to the ground right there? Then I would have had to give you 10 shekels of silver and a warrior's belt. All right, let me just pause you right here. I have a way of, I'm a little ADHD. It might surprise some of you. Why are you laughing? When I go to read the Bible, I read a verse or two and my mind is already following it through. My eyes will touch the rest of the letters for 2 chapters while I'm thinking about those first 2 verses and have no idea what I just read. Am I alone? No. Y'all are good. I'm glad we're all like that.
We're all a little neurodivergent.
And so even though I had read ahead, I get to that spot and I'm thinking, all right, so what kind of guy was this? What kind of a soldier?
No!
What kind of a soldier comes across and says, wait a minute, I'm not going to kill this king because I heard the king say I'm not going to do that. So he's a loyal, obedient soldier. His commander says, what were you thinking? So his commander is thinking anybody that came across Absalom should know that this is your chance to kill him and gain a reward. There was a reward for killing Absalom. Now stop and think about that. Who places a reward for the death of a person the king says don't kill?
Apparently Joab.
Something's not right in there already.
I know, so it's when did this reward,
come into play here.
The who?
The reward.
Yeah, it's the first time it's been mentioned.
Yeah.
It's almost like that's a standing thing, or Joab's telling you, this is what would have happened. You know, maybe that's a standard thing. If you kill the enemy, you get this extra payment if you're the one. And then it says, and you get the warrior's belt. That's the next thing that it says. And I'm thinking, all right, so to earn the warrior's belt, is that something this guy didn't have yet? In other words, like a rookie. Because a rookie doesn't get the whole system yet. Right? He thinks he's still supposed to do what the king said, when the soldiers know, yeah, let him think he's ruling. We have to do this to cover his back. Can you see the nature of that? So I had started in my ADHD-ness to start to think he's probably a rookie and he didn't realize it, and he could have earned his belt. Like, it's like, get rid of your white belt, go to your black belt, karate, you know, like that's, I started to think that. And then, like a good pastor, I kept reading.
Good job, Dad.
Thanks. It says, verse 12, but the man replied, even if 1,000 shekels were weighed out into my hands, I would not lay a hand on the king's son.
You go.
So first of all, here's a man who says, no, I knew what it was, but my integrity is worth more than money. All of a sudden, he doesn't sound so rookie anymore, does he?
Especially to say that to his boss, like.
Keep reading. In our hearing, the king commanded you and Abishai and Ittai, protect the young man Absalom for my sake. And if I had put my life in jeopardy, in other words, if I had gone against him and taken out Absalom like you're telling me I should have done, and nothing is hidden from the king, like if he finds out,
No!
you would have kept your distance from me.
Ooh.
Oh, you're all proud of me now for finding him, but if I'd have done it, and you started to reward me, and the king finds out, well, I told him not to, king.
So that's him speaking his character, what?
We know who you are, Joab.
Now, I wouldn't be surprised if you went over and got selfies with him. And brought it.
Just imagine
All of a sudden, does this guy seem like a rookie who doesn't know what's going on, or he knows what's going on, doesn't he? See, he knows the game. And yet, what protected him? His integrity. His integrity. Didn't matter if he could gain money, not even if it were 1,000 shekels.
Even if Joab just like right there cut off his head or something for saying that to him,
Yep.
he would have been blessed. And
Absolutely.
protected.
Absolutely.
Totally worth
It was the right decision to make, and that's exactly what he did.
I feel like you're just trying to goad him to go on ahead and do it.
Yeah, well, and that's what Joab's about to.
Yeah, just keep, you don't want to do it.
That's what Joab's about to do, is go do this. He's like, if you want to do it.
Talk it socially, you wouldn't bother him.
No!
It's already been done.
How much is your integrity worth? You see, this is what this guy is saying. Joab says, you could have had this many shekels. He's like, and give up my integrity for that? No, my integrity is worth, there is thousands of shekels. It wouldn't matter because it's integrity. You can't buy integrity.
No!
But Joab, what about you? Like, where's you're telling me I should have done it for 4 shekels. Is that what integrity is worth to you? I mean, he's speaking boldly.
The memory verse this week is Proverbs 22:1 about how a good name is more precious than silver or gold, and favor is better. And that's what literally was having that conversation. It's making sure that your name and your integrity and your reputation.
Something happened over the last week, and I think the person would be fine with me telling you, but I don't have permission, so I'm going to be very vague. But I hope I get to tell you. But this one person had to stand up and do what was right in the middle of a family that does not know the Lord. And was told, and the situation moved immediately in the direction that for doing what was right, he was going to suffer big. And the loss of communication with family members that were really important to him, and all kinds of things. And he came and talked to me, and we prayed about it, and I assured him that it's still always the right path to do what's right. And to leave the results in God's hands, that even if it looks like these family members would leave and never deal with him again, that down the road, when they wanted to get their lives right, they would know there's a place I can go, and he's going to not give in to the wrong things. He's going to stand his ground. He agreed. He says, "You're right. I'm going to do that." He continued to stand firm, and in less than 7 days, God has taken that whole situation and turned it absolutely upside down to where it's all working out to the good, and the people that he thought was going to leave and not want anything to do with him, I'm not joking, coming to me and hugging me and saying thank you for what's happening to my other family members. Like, it's just like, gives me goosebumps. It blows me away. It's just, my point is this: God sees integrity, and it doesn't matter how the plan seems to, it's going to work to go this direction. When you put God first, man's plans can't hold a candle to God's plans. And that's what we're seeing here. All right.
14.
Yeah, thank you. Because this Absalom and all, and over here, 14 over here. Joab said, "Well, I'm not going to wait like this for you." So he took 3 javelins in his hand and plunged them into Absalom's heart. All right, well, is that good and dead?
Well, apparently not.
That's right. I was about to say he's mostly dead. Because Absalom was still alive in the oak tree, and that's when he did that. And 10 of Joab's armor bearers surrounded Absalom and struck him and killed him.
Wow. He doesn't die easy.
Wow, he doesn't die easy. And so who killed him?
The armor bearers.
Joab and
His armor.
10 armor. It took 11 guys to kill a guy hanging by his hair in the tree without a weapon.
With a spear in his heart.
With 3 javelins in his heart.
Like, have you ever done a pinata?
It's like the Terminator. He gets cut in half. You know, it's like he just keeps coming back. And I'm not trying to make fun of it, but I'm telling you, there's more than physical things going on here. This is spiritual warfare, and you can't help but see it. All right, let me keep going. Then Joab sounded the trumpet, and the troops stopped pursuing Israel, for Joab halted them. They took Absalom, threw him into a big pit in the forest, and piled up a large heap of rocks over him. Meanwhile, all the Israelites fled to their homes. So I wasn't fighting, I was here plowing my field. During his lifetime, now try to think, we're going to end at these verses and start with 19 next week. But pay attention to this. During his lifetime, Absalom had taken a pillar and erected it in the king's valley as a monument to himself. For he thought, I have no son to carry on the memory of my name. And he named the pillar after himself, Absalom's pillar. There's Absalom right there. And it is called Absalom's monument to this day. What does that have to do with Absalom dying with his hair caught in a tree?
They piled up a bunch of stones and made another monument,
And do what?
and they made another monument.
Yeah, there's a new monument, isn't there?
Also still his pride.
It's totally about his pride.
But also that it was left up. It wasn't taken down. And it was a monument to himself. And when David got back into power, he didn't destroy it or take it down.
Let me read for you back a few pages. You don't have to go back. I'll just read it to you. 1427. Speaking of Absalom, he had 3 sons and a daughter were born to Absalom.
Oh,
His daughter's name was Tamar, and she became a beautiful woman. Remember, he named her after.
so he had 3 sons. So did he erect this monument before he had any sons?
You're not going to like the answer. It's too simple.
He didn't want his sons to succeed.
They died young. They probably died maybe in battle or something, but he had 3 sons and a daughter. Watching, I remember when I had David was born, our firstborn, I'm like, the name goes on. Made me happy. Then David has a girl and another girl and another girl. You know what I'm thinking? Then he has a son. Then he has a son. Way to go, Heath. Grafe continues. Absalom had 3 sons. And that was his pride. Along with his hair was his pride. He is a self-proclaimed king. He builds a pillar in the king's valley to say, I'm king. And yet he dies in battle with no son to carry his name. Think he knew that? Yeah. They had died before he built the pillar because he had to build the pillar saying, I don't have anybody to carry on my name. So he'd already lost that security. He builds this pillar, comes out here, and it's a source of his pride. I cut off my hair once a year and it's 5 pounds, and he dies because of that. And he's thrown in a grave, in a pit where they throw rocks over top of it, about as poor of a grave as you get. And I believe that these verses are put there for us to see the comparison between what he thought of himself and how he actually ended up. And when we think of ourselves more highly than we ought, we may think we're all that and we're actually nothing. Listen, the only thing that gives us any value is your relationship to Jesus Christ. And pride will get you exactly what you're seeing here. Yep. All right, let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, I just pray that you would help us to learn from the life of David. And I pray that you would give us a true sense of humility and not one of pride. That we would always be listening for what you're doing. And where David seemed to be divided in his leadership. He could lead and command an army, but he could not lead or command his family. And Absalom and Joab, they all saw it. They saw that David was one thing in one place and another and somewhere else, and they lost trust. He was a bit of a hypocrite, and when it came to his family, and they saw that. Lord, help us not to be that way, but to truly follow you, not to let our past mistakes keep us from taking proper stands now, and helping to be that generation that brings a paradigm shift, a real change to the next generation. In Jesus' name, amen.